Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras at Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez. Physical education requirements for students with disabilities can be different, but Wauwatosa East High School is making sure students of all abilities have access. The following story was produced by Taylor Cure, Hannah Haas, Elise Handgardner, and Amari Santiago, students of Wauwatosa East High School in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Studies have shown that children who face disabilities often have a delay in their motor skills. At Wauwatosa East High School, adaptive physical education courses are offered to address their needs.
So the specially designed physical education class provides a safe and good opportunity for our students with special needs to work on their motor skills and their personal fitness, but again, like I said, in a safe and inclusive environment.
We went on to ask Jamie Gallwitzer what her favorite class activity was.
Well, my favorite part of gym class was when I went on the treadmill for 30 minutes.
Senior TAs went on to explain what it's like to work with the kids.
Working with kids with special needs has really helped me accept people for the things that they can't help.
It's made me realize everybody's equal. I would say definitely try it out. It's very fun, and like see the reactions and how happy they get when you try with them. It's really cool.
Wauwatosa East is proud to provide a positive, inclusive environment that supports learning for all.
Dawn Starowska is the Regional Director for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Mountain Region. She is responsible for the external operations over 6 counties in southwestern part of the state, including volunteer recruitment, board management, marketing and PR, and all elements of fundraising. Dawn previously owned a successful event production business for over 11 years. She was responsible for large public events in Las Cruces and throughout the state. Dawn, welcome to Fronteras at Changing America.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start out the conversation by giving us a state of where Big Brothers Big Sisters is for 2017.
We are in great shape. I feel so much better about where we are.
You've been there for a little over
almost 2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Yeah, so from walking in deer in the headlights of what have I gotten myself into to where we are today, I'm absolutely thrilled with the program. It struggled for a while in 2013, 14, 15, and it lost a little bit of its visibility in the market. You know how that goes. If people don't know you're there, then you're not going to keep growing. But we have grown leaps and bounds. When I started here in Doña Ana County, we had about 65 matches, and to us a match is
65 matches?
65, right.
And that you match what you call littles?
Right.
With bigs?
Right, so a match is 2 people. It's the big, the volunteer, the adult, and the little, who is the child. We were at about 65 at that point, and now we're at about 150 in Doña Ana County. We also have an active program in Grant County, and we were at two very struggling matches at the beginning of 2015, and we're at about 28 today, but we have an exciting partnership going on, and by the end of August, early September, we'll be matching about 40 more, so we're going to wind up the year probably with 70 to 80 matches in Grant County as well.
What do you attribute that success? Because you went from 3 years ago to the program several years ago was on the verge of probably going away.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of being out there and just talking about the program. It's also why we have a great staff. I have an amazing team, 3 other women in the office with me who care about what we're doing, and it shows. When you really care about the program, it comes through in everything we do. But it was an endless series of knocking on doors, telling people we're still here, convincing donors and supporters of us that we really still were going to be doing great things. And this is a giving community, and Grant County is a giving community, and people start to realize, you're serious about what's going on. But it took a lot of time of just going around and telling the story. I would book my day with 5 or 6 appointments and just let me come in and tell you for half an hour what Big Brothers Big Sisters is all about and what we're doing and how we're changing the lives of children. So it takes a little time to get that message out there and for people to really see it. Our fundraisers are also great visibility, and you just keep pounding at it until people realize you're not going away, and the program's not going away either.
So you have to rely on a staff, volunteers, and you also have to rely on funders, on fundraising. What challenges have you had to overcome within the last 3 years to overcome those challenges?
You know, the staff, I will say, no challenges there. We have a great staff. It's just a matter of how much can we do in the time that we're supposed to do. Our volunteers, you know, it takes a long time to recruit volunteers. It's a commitment to be a big in our program. We ask for at least 4 to 6 hours a month, which isn't all that much, but at least a year commitment. So it's not like you can do this today and then decide you don't want to do it anymore. There's a child counting on you. So the screening process for a volunteer and that vetting process is a little more intense, and it takes a volunteer for each child we serve. So I can't give you 10 little kids to be in charge of each.
Yeah,
every kid we serve is
it's
one,
a
right?
match.
So it's intensive to get those volunteers. We use a statistic of 10% of children living in poverty is what our goal is ultimately to serve. For Doña Ana County, that would mean serving 1,800 kids, and that means 1,800 volunteers. That's the scarier part. I can find the kids. We know they're there, and the school counselors will help us find them. But finding 1,800 volunteers who are willing to spend time with the child and help them, that's a bigger task. So, you know, we're always looking for volunteers. We will never end. And I will say very specifically, we always need men. We always have little boys on the waiting list who don't have a male role model in their life, and they're looking for that guy. So where I can find women more easily, and we can go into the reasons why men are more hesitant to volunteer.
Well, let's go into the reasons.
Yeah.
Why are men more hesitant?
You're a man, you tell me. You know, I wonder, I think there's this fear of that it's something special, like you have to have a certain skill set. It's hanging out with a kid. It's just being there. It's playing ball. It's going to a movie. It's, you know, going to a football game at one of the universities. It's really just hanging out. So there's really nothing to it, but I think guys get intimidated by this idea of, they think we're going to do this. We're going to sit one-to-one and have heart-to-hearts. That's not what it's about. It's about just being there. Kids know intuitively when there's trust and when you care about them, and that grows over time. And so really, you just got to be there with them.
Well, let's take it one step at a time. What is the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters?
We probably should have started there, huh? The mission is to serve children facing adversity, whatever that adversity is, whether it's academic, whether it's social, whether it's family situations, and provide them with a caring adult. You know, it's very simple. It's about being there for a child. It's about spending time with a child. We have all kinds of statistics and studies that will show the impact that it has. Our kids that have that caring mentor in their life are less likely to drop out of school. They're less likely to get involved with drugs and alcohol. They're less likely to get involved with sexual behavior earlier than they should. They're less violent. They do better in school. They have higher aspirations and plan things beyond high school. So, you know, we have the data to back up that simple act of being there for a kid 4 to 6 hours a month has a huge impact on not only that child, but if you think about, you know, a kid that's been acting out in school, maybe acting out at home, picking on their brother, picking on fights with their mom, maybe dabbling in gang activity or thinking that road, because they'll offer you a mentor as well in a different way.
And that is the case. Because
that's exactly it.
The alternative is gangs, bad activity, followed by more bad activity.
Right, dropping out of school, not having a career path. So you take that child and you turn that little switch inside them that says, I'm worth something. I have possibilities. I have things to offer somebody. Somebody cares and sees something in me, and they do better in school. They stop acting out at home because, you know, if you think about, we have a lot of large families, so the kids in a large family sometimes act out because they're struggling for attention. Well, now somebody else is giving them attention, so they know they have value. So now they start thinking a little bigger. One of the things I love is to take somebody from a different perspective and put them in that child's life. They may live in this little community, in this little insular world of theirs, and now you drop an NMSU engineering student, for example, in their life, and they realize math's not that hard, and there's really cool things you can do with this, and it's not that hard to get a lottery scholarship, and you could just totally change that perspective of that child. And you change that for that child, you change it for their family as well. If you get those children all to go into successful careers, but it doesn't have to be engineering, it could be anything, you know, whatever that kid's passion and interest is, but you give them a solid future. Think about the long-term impacts for our community as a whole. If you can break some of that cycle of poverty and inspire a child and change those dreams and ambitions, we could do absolutely amazing things. So it's hard. You start with this little one-to-one, but when you look down the road and you think about the long-term impacts, it's huge.
Well, let's talk about what are some of the steps. So you have a child. How do you identify or how is a child identified for Big Brothers and Big Sisters?
A lot of our referrals come from school counselors. They're the ones that see the children, and teachers as well. And they can identify those kids that they think, you know, there's something missing in their life. We also get referrals from CYFD, same thing. They're seeing kids that are struggling and that have issues going on in their life. Sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes we're standing at a public event and somebody says, you know, I've heard about that. A lot of times for those little boys that don't have a male role model, it's mom or grandma, whoever's raising them, says, you know, I'm doing the best I can and I love this kid to death, but I'm not a guy.
There's something missing.
Exactly, and that is really the only qualification. There's no income qualification. There is an age limit, obviously. Our kids are age 5 to 16. We keep them in the program to 18, but we only accept them up to age 16. Those are really kind of the parent has to want them involved. The child has to want to be there, obviously. They want to go spend time, but there's no other qualifier to the family. On the negative side, a child that has severe behavioral issues or is on the autistic spectrum too far, those are some of the areas where we can't serve a child because it's just a volunteer. But there's a very few of those that come knocking on the door, and we always refer those to other services. We know who else in town is providing services to say, maybe this program can help you out. So the kids are just kids that are lacking that something in their life. We never doubt that their parents or mom or grandma or whoever's raising them loves them. There's a reason they got them in the program, because they love them enough to think
it's because they love them that they're in the program.
There's something else that this child could benefit from. So that's kind of the.
So let's look at me. Okay, I've got 2 kids. Am I a candidate to be a big? As somebody who already has children, I've got 2 daughters, and I came from a large family myself, so there was never any lack of influence in my family. Yeah. What are you looking for?
Well, the fact that you even ask says there's an interest. That's one of those things. Really, it's a couple of things. It's that you have the time to do it, and everybody has the time. Give me a break. We spend more time on Facebook than 4 to 6 hours a month. We can all shave a little time off our social media to do that. And it's that obviously we have a background check. We do a national, and I'm not going to say anything, but I'm assuming it all comes back good. It's a national criminal background check, the sex offender registry, FBI fingerprints, and driving record. We check all of those on a volunteer to make sure it's safe, because that child's safety is the most important thing. We also would do about an hour interview with you to find out what you're like. What was that family like that you grew up in? What did you overcome as a child? What are your skills? What do you like to do? Kind of what hobbies would you like to share with a child? What age group are you comfortable with? Are you more comfortable with a 6 or 7-year-old boy, or a 12 or 13-year-old boy? And we take all that into consideration. At the same time, we've interviewed the child separate from their parent or guardian and asked them the same things. What do you want to do? What are you interested in? What kind of things would you like to try out? What kind of person are you comfortable with? And then we ask the mom or the guardian too. And a lot of times what the guardian says and what the child says, they don't line up, which is fine, because our programs take all 3 perspectives. And I laugh because it's kind of like the dating game. It's, hey, I've got this guy and he likes soccer.
You're looking at making a match.
You are, and it's personality traits, it's interests, it's it's all of that. It's a chemistry, and our staff do an amazing job. We hear that all the time. I could have never found this child. It's a perfect match. It's like it's my real sister or brother. So that's kind of that excitement that happens when you find a good match. The other piece that I'll mention for you in your particular case, we do have volunteers that have children of their own, and we have a separate program. Our community-based is what we've been talking about. You take them to the movies. You take them. I'm looking at a beautiful picture of the Oregon Mountains. You take them hiking in the mountains. You take them on a picnic. You go to the park and you play ball, but you're out in the community and doing things. On a more limited spectrum, we have what's called our school-based program, and that is a meeting only at the school site. So during the academic year in the elementary schools, you would go to this school at, say, 11 o'clock on Thursday. Every Thursday, you schedule your lunch for 11 o'clock on Thursday, and you go and you hang out on the school grounds. So you can still play basketball, you can sit and do board games, you could work on a science fair project, but you're limited to that school setting. But it works well for somebody like you who has children of their own. You don't want to take your weekend time away from your own children to go spend it with another child. Your kids are going to get a little upset with you. And you're in that kind of professional setting where you can do that. You can schedule your time during that time and make that time for a child, so you can have an impact. On the child side, the program works well for a family that may not be as willing to communicate and as flexible with somebody coming to pick up their child. If the parent's not going to communicate with us a whole lot, the school setting is a pretty good place. It's also sometimes it's a starter. Let's see how this goes, and if the relationship builds, then maybe we can roll it into a community-based eventually. But that's one of those programs, and you're right in that demographic that I would target. And in fact, I'm not going to leave today without asking you about that again. But that school-based program is a good fit for some people.
What kind of success stories can you share with our audience as to somebody that came in that might have been hesitant and met with a little, and a success story?
It happens on a regular basis, the local moments, and there are cases of we have a young lady who graduated from high school actually a year ago, but she was a very young graduate, so we kept her, even though she was graduated, kept her in the program until 18. And her big sister, I think they've been together 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazing.
it's a relationship. And the little girl, she's a young lady, I shouldn't call her a little girl. She's struggling with the process of going into the Doña Ana Community College. The application process was a little daunting. Nobody in her family had done that. So who was there for her? Her big sister. She didn't know what kind of classes. She was kind of unsure about that. And her big sister was there for her. So it's really bridged into a real relationship. Yeah. Now it's not about hanging out and let's have a mani-pedi day. It's about real things that are really impacting this young lady's life. I see them together and I can't picture one without the other because there's just a chemistry between them. Another story, not directly related to our program, but I was standing in the store one day getting a breakfast burrito at 7 o'clock in the morning because I had to go do an event. You know, it's Saturday, I have to go work. You know, you're in that little kind of grumpy mode. And I was wearing my Big Brothers Big Sisters baseball cap and my polo shirt and was waiting for my breakfast burrito, and this guy keeps looking at me and I'm trying to figure out, he said, "Are you with Big Brothers Big Sisters?" And I said, you know, I'm thinking, well, obviously. Yeah. I said, "Yes, I am." And he just gets this glow on his face, and he's probably late 20s-ish, maybe 30. And he says, "I was in that program when I was about 12. And I said, "Oh, you know, that's great." I said, "You were a little brother." I said, "Yeah, I started when I was about 12, and I just saw my big brother last week still." And I'm thinking, Still. Yeah, he went all the way through 18, graduated. His big brother was there for him the whole time. His big brother now lives in South Dakota, but they're still in contact. And what really got me is this man's wife is standing there very obviously pregnant, and he puts his hand on her stomach and he said, "You know, without my big brother, I never would have had the confidence to marry a woman like this, and I never would have had the confidence to be a father." So I get goosebumps even talking about it. I stood there and was like, that's why I'm up on a Saturday morning, because of stories like that changed this guy's life, and he's in an amazing place now because of that big brother. So it's those kind of things that, you know, keep you going and make you realize there really is an impact to having that person in your life.
Let's talk about Big Brothers Big Sisters Mountain Region. What are your immediate needs? You have needs for male role models to come in. What are the needs that you have throughout the year?
That's probably our biggest one, is volunteers is a constant battle. We can always find kids. We do a couple program events to support the folks in our program. We have one coming up in a few weeks, our Back to School Bash, with the goal of giving kids the school supplies to get their school year off started well. I personally want them inspired for school. I want them to go, "Hey, it's a new school year. This is going to be great. I'm excited." So giving them those school supplies and a backpack and saying, "Here's some new stuff." So, you know, donating school supplies is a very simple one. The other side of that is we ease the burden for the families a little bit, and, you know, that financial burden of getting the school year started. We do a party at the holidays, and we bring the big, the little, and the family together. And so it's serving a meal and having small gifts that we can give to the group. You know, on a ongoing basis, we also have a couple of fundraising events. I know we're going to talk about one here in a minute. So we need volunteers for those. We have a board, a very strong board now. That's another thing that I've worked very hard to rebuild, of very dedicated professionals who care about our mission. But if somebody has a passion and wants that experience of serving on a board and is ready to give at that level, I'd love to talk to people about being on that board and helping us expand, particularly in Grant County. We have a couple of board members there, but I'd like a couple of more to really represent the voices there and the community there. And those kind of our ongoing challenges. We also, if you've seen those green bins around town, it's kind of a related program. We have about 25. Those bins, you dump your clothes that you've outgrown or the household things that you don't want in there, and it gets sold to Savers, and we get a check from that. So it's a very simple way of cleaning your house, getting a tax deduction, and it's not just stuff that we get cash. That helps us continue with our program and match kids. So when you see those bins, they actually really serve a great purpose for us.
All right, let's talk fundraising. You've got the Bowl for Kids' Sake, and you've got a big one that's coming up.
Yes.
Let's talk about mud volleyball.
Mud volleyball is my favorite of our fundraisers. You know, bowling is
you
great.
You get down and dirty for this one.
I do. I love this event. You know, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's muddy and messy and quite disgusting, but at the end of the day, you have mud in places you didn't know you could have places.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, but it is so much fun, and it's become our signature event.
Going on 8 years.
This is our 8th annual. I know you were involved back in the day when it first got started, so to think of where it started and where it is now.
Well, I remember talking to one of the volunteers that said, we've got this idea, we want to put this together, and I was like, are you insane?
I remember
you want to put people to get down dirty and play in mud volleyball. We're showing some pictures, but you dig pits, you fill them with water, and people play volleyball.
They do, yeah. The mud is, about shin deep, and it's messy. We require you to duct tape your shoes on because they're going to get stuck in that mud. We do pool play from 8 in the morning till about 2. So you're going to get at least 3 matches in there, and then we go into the championships in the afternoon. So it's a long day, from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 6 o'clock at night, dwindling as the day goes on because there's fewer and fewer teams. But it has really become something people look forward to. I have people, as soon as it's over, what's the date for next year? What are we going to do? As soon as I start posting it on social media, I have phone calls, are you sold out yet? Because we had that fortunate experience last year. We sold out. I turned away at least 10 teams.
You turned away 10 teams?
I turned away 10. We could not. We were at the Farm and Ranch Museum. We had a maximum number of courts and a maximum number of parking spaces, and we just could not take any more. It wouldn't have been safe. We didn't have the room. So I had to turn teams away. So this year we found a new venue. We're going to be down at the Grapevine Event Plaza and the Picacho Peak Brewery down across from the Mesilla Valley Maze in that part of Picacho.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that area.
They've got about 12 acres back there that Cindy and Xavier have cleared for us. We can have 10 courts this year, which means I can have 80 teams. So that is my goal.
80 teams?
80 teams.
I don't even remember how many teams it started out with.
Let's see, 2015 was my first year, and we had 44. And when I talked to some of the folks involved in the past, they said, we get 20, 22. So, we were already, and then it kind of dwindled. I think they got up to about that 40 mark. And then in those struggling years, it kind of waffled. But we had 44. Last year we had 60. This year the goal is 80. So my board is already, pegged 100 for next year. So we've got to keep moving.
So you're 80. What's the cost to put a team together?
A team is $450. That is for 8 to 12 co-ed players. There have to be at least 2 females on every team, although we don't have the caveat on the reverse. So an all-female team can register, just an all-male team can't. And that gets you the tournament experience. You get your T-shirt, and you get to hang out there all day. You get at least 3 matches. The top 2 teams in each of the brackets will move on to the finals for sure, and then we take a couple of wild card spots as well to even out the bracket. So depending on how your bracket falls, and we have teams that are highly competitive, and we have people that are out that are just having fun. So, it really is just an experience.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Talk to me about team names. Because
I try to keep them clean because there's some really
there's some funky names.
Yeah, well, yes, like sloppy sets. What did I get today? Hit or miss. One of our local restaurants did red or green. That makes sense. Muddylicious is a team that registers every year. The champion from last year that gets free admission this year is the Good, the Bad, and the Muddy.
The Good, the Bad, and the Muddy.
Yeah. Okay, there's a couple that are inappropriate to say, and I always struggle with those. Do I allow them to do it? I'm like, yes, we're all adults, that's okay. But yeah, you have a lot of fun. It's funny, I alphabetize the book, so when we do check-in, and that M section, because everyone has muddy this and muddy that, and El Paso Electric was Muddy Watts, trying to tie into the electric part. And then some of the, I have to encourage, some of the groups just do their name. That's really boring. I'm trying to think, Virgin Galactic last year had some space play on it. On mud and space, so that was really clever. So
interesting. So let's talk about the teams. You have some teams that come back year after year.
Absolutely, and now I'm getting to know those faces, and you know who they are, and because they're dedicated to this. It's fun. It's something that they look forward to doing. They love to support the mission. I have people say $450, but if you break that down, that's about $37 for each person on the team. It's tax deductible, so it's really not that much of a stretch. And most of the time, their company is paying for it. We do have sponsorship levels, of course, going above the team part. So we try to thank our sponsors and have them in there. But it's just a great day.
Do you still have room for sponsors?
Of course. Actually, I laugh. Up until about August 1st. So
okay,
this may be a little bit.
When is the event?
That's a good point. The event is August 26th. Our deadline for teams to register is August 11th. Last year we sold out before that deadline, so I'm encouraging people to get in quicker, although we do have the 20 extra teams that we're adding this year. So there's a little wiggle room, but I wouldn't chance it and wait too long. Get your application in. And then the day of the event, we ask for a $1 donation per person to come and watch. The teams have already paid to be there, but we ask for a $1 donation if you're going to come out and watch your friends and family, and that's a lot of fun. And this year we'll have a little after party at the brewery as well, so you may want to go home and clean up a little bit more and then come back, and the brewery's going to have a band playing, and hang out at the Picacho Peak Brewery. We'll do our awards ceremony there.
Do you not have a hose down? Is that?
We do. We have a huge shower, and we get a lot of clothes left behind. If only I could wash those and donate those, but they are just destroyed at that point. Shoes and clothes are left all over the parking lot. We ask people to please put them in a trash can, but that doesn't always happen. But our showers are there. You play 3 matches. The first one, you're looking okay. You play. You may come in a green shirt, and I'll recognize you. By the second match, I don't see as much green on the shirt, and you've tried to hose off, but it's not really happening. The third match, pretty much everyone's in a brown shirt, and the hoses can only do so much. So
It's kind of like a mud spa in a way.
it is, you know, it's therapeutic. You're out there doing good things, and as it bakes onto your skin, I'm sure it does something good for you.
It's got to do something good. It's got to
Yeah.
be something good out of it. How much are you looking to raise this year? What's your goal?
The event should net about $35,000 if we meet our goals with sponsorship and with maxing out at the 80 teams. So I'm pretty close to my sponsorship goal, so I have a long time to go. So I'm hoping I'll go
Let's
over
give
that.
some kudos to the sponsors. Who's sponsoring
Sure, we have
this
El
year?
Paso Electric has been a sponsor for years. Virgin Galactic is one of our sponsors. Citizens Bank. Now, if I forget anybody, I'm
The
going to be
Las
in big
Cruces
trouble.
Sun News.
The Las Cruces Sun News, Bravo Mike Communications, Beasley Mitchell, La Posta has been a consistent sponsor. Burger Time, they donate food for our volunteers all day. Bank of the West just committed their sponsorship today.
So you're looking at 80 teams. How many people per team?
8 to 12.
8 to 12.
You can play with 8. You have to have at least 8 on the court, but you can have a roster of up to 12.
Okay. And what are the age?
You have to be 18.
18.
I would love to have children out there playing, but for our insurance, imagine the liability insurance on this is significant. You have to be 18, and everyone has to sign that liability waiver. And I am meticulous about checking those, that I have every player signed, every volunteer signs, every referee signs.
You have referees?
We do.
So this is like seriously competitive.
Oh yeah, and if you're on the serious side, it is very serious. We have a referee meeting beforehand to make sure everyone is enforcing the rules in the same way, everyone's recording the scores in the same way.
This is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
have
it's all for fun and
referees-
charity until someone loses, you know?
Okay.
Actually, Wells Fargo is sponsoring our referees this year, so they're providing all but one of the referees because they will have a team in, so I have to have a non-biased referee on their
referee.
court. So they'll be out there and we'll be meeting with all of them. But yeah, and it's a long day. It takes about 70 volunteers over the course of the day, including those referees, to keep things moving, to keep score, to keep everyone moving to the berms. You know, people land on that berm around the court. So I have fraternity guys out there with shovels just rebuilding the berms throughout the day to make sure we actually have a court by the end of the day. So it's an amazing operation. I mean, even if you don't want to play, you should come out and watch. I mean, it's just hysterical. And if you're at all a photographer, the videos and the pictures that you can get are hysterical. I laugh because I mentioned that about the shirts. At the beginning of the day, I can tell teams by the colors of shirts because they tend to have matching shirts. At the end of the day, everyone is monochrome. You can't tell one team from another.
Okay. So again, when is the event taking place?
August 26th down at the Picacho Creek Brewery.
All right, Dawn, I want to thank you very much for coming in. We want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Fronteras de Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez.